Hey everyone, and welcome back to another teaching and learning video. Today I want to give you a very brief overview of eLumen, just how to log on and how to do some of those curriculum modifications you might be interested in doing. And in fact, Ray asked if this could be under 7 minutes, so I'm going to time myself and try to get it 7 minutes or less. And by the way, I want to mention that in addition to this video, there's an accompanying PDF handout that you can use to also see graphically how to work through some of these eLumen issues as you're starting to do your curriculum modifications. Okay, so let's jump on here, and this will very closely follow what I have in the PDF handout, so just be sure if you need to check that for the screenshots to do that. I'll try to also include those in the video here. So first thing to do is you will log on to Passport, and so you just go to your Passport login on ltcc.edu. And after you do that, you're going to find your eLumen link. It's going to be on the right-hand corner under the quick links, and on mine at least it's at the bottom. I'm assuming it's the same for you. So click on that link. And this takes you to the main interface of eLumen. And by the way, I think eLumen is fairly easy to use. I think it's some getting used to in terms of some of the functionality, but I think overall the user experience is just fine, and I think you should have no problem. So first thing I wanted to mention is when you log on here, you really want to pay attention to this drop-down menu and this drop-down menu. So this one is going to be your department. Now, you may not have more than just the department that you teach in or that you're chair of. I have a multiple number of these just through some of my past work as DE coordinator. So I want to do an update on anthropology. I'll click anthropology. This is quite important. Choose faculty for these and not department coordinator, which you might use more for your SLO reports or review of some of your part-time faculty classes. So I want to be logged into faculty in anthropology, and then you'll see a change in the screen here. And then again, if you're doing anything with SLOs, be sure to check out the video that Mark Williams did for me talking about SLO assessment. Today we're going to work just on curriculum. So if you want to do a new modification, a brand new class, you're going to click on curriculum here. If you already have a class, by the way, in process, if I've done some modifications in all these classes, and in fact this screen will tell me my workflow and exactly what's happening with all the courses, and that helps you track the progress if it's moving from, say, your department lead, to the curriculum specialist, to a dean, to Ray in instruction, and then the curriculum committee. So the tracking of workflow maybe is something you don't have to necessarily deal with, but that's what you'll see on the curriculum dashboard. Again, if you have a class in process, start here, click on inbox, then click continue workflow. I already have all these in process. Now, let me show you what this looks like if you want to do a brand new modification. I'm not going to go through all this because I've already started it, but all I'd have to do is go to my curriculum library, and depending on your department, you're going to find this, it shows up first for me because it's alphabetical. So if I want to do a revision for Intro to Archaeology, Anthro 101, I'm going to click New Revision. If I'm doing a deactivation, I'm going to click there. So for the most part, this is what you're going to be working with as all of you are doing your Title V updates at this moment, as I'm doing. I'm doing about 8 of these. I know Sociology has 7. I don't know what other folks have, but this is where you're going to be working. So for each of those updates, click on that checkbox there next to the course, and then click New Revision. Okay, now I've already worked on these, so I'm not going to show you from the new revision stage, so pretend I did. Instead, I'm going to go to the inbox, and I'm going to continue workflow. So when you click on that new revision, it'll give you a choice to either work in step or outline mode. They're really similar in terms of the end results. The difference is the user experience. It's not unlike going to Microsoft Word and clicking on the outline view versus the typical view versus a print view. So they're different views, but as workflows, they have the exact same result, which is modifying your class. So I'll show you both. The step view is going to be one in which you go through these, as it says, in steps. So you'll see at the top all of the tabs that refer to all the main content areas of your outline that you're doing the revision of. So it'll start with the name here. You should make sure you have your author checked here. Proposal start date. I also put a little thing that just says it's a Title V revision. So one of the things you can do at the bottom, when you're ready to submit, you can go ahead and click the submit button. If you're working on it now, just to make sure it saves everything, click either save as draft, or you could click on that save and continue. In the step view, what's going to happen then is it'll go to the next area sequentially, just in the order that you see here. So it'll go to course, it'll go to units. And by the way, as you're doing your revisions here for your Title V reviews or revisions that we have to do every so often, you don't have to deal with a lot of these areas. I recommend on the first time through that you quickly look at all these tabs, but you're not going to be working with every tab. Let's go back 1 second here, and let me show you what the outline view looks like. So we'll take culture anthropology and click on outline view. Again, exact same result. Difference is it doesn't take you through sequentially each of the major areas. It shows everything on one entire page. In fact, as I scroll down using my mouse or my trackpad, it shows every single thing. So you may want to start with this view just because it allows you to see the areas that you have to do your revisions for. Now, real quick on that, we can talk about the things, again, you might want to address on your curriculum revisions for Title V. Again, spend a little time with cover info. Your name here, the start date, I put that in at least. Course description, presumably a lot of that you're not going to change. Now, when you get into things like associated programs, if you're adding to a program, if you're deleting from a program or certificate, you're going to spend some time here. And FYI, I hear Lori Thorne in the instruction office is setting up a couple-hour training just to work through how to do this because you might have some program revisions, deletions, etc. So we're not going to cover that today. So things like the GE requirements and so forth, again, if something is changing on this, if you're working with our articulation officer in counseling and you're changing some of the GE transferability issues or requirements or areas, you'll work in this area. I'm not going to in my Title V update. And this is the good news. So you're seeing already for your Title V updates, you're not going to be doing everything under the sun in terms of the work here inside of eLumen. Units and hours, that's not going to change. The contact information, any of that is likely not going to change. Probably not any changes to your prereqs. If you do, it would be in this area, either an actual prereq, a co-req, or the equivalent, in this case, rather advisory is what I have for anthropology. Entrance and exit skills, if you change SLOs and so forth, that might change. Presumably, you're not changing your methods of instruction, so I'm at least going to skip over that. Now, any of the one first major change I think all of you are going to cover is going to be the required textbook. And the reason for that is there's always been a requirement with the Chancellor's Office, with curriculum, institute folks, with the Senate and so forth, that we keep up-to-date text. So this is where you change your textbook. I'm just working on these right now. Very easy. Go in, type author, title, publisher, date, ISBN. This is a step, though. Once you do this, you can't see it, but once I put in all this information, if you don't hit add new textbook, it'll delete this. It won't save it for you. It's not like some things in Canvas that save it as you move along. So I've made this mistake probably 5-10 times over the years. So I just recommend when you add that new textbook right here, click add new textbook. I don't find it that intuitive, but it's something that you need to do. And once you do that, your new textbook is updated. Again, I think the general feeling from curriculum committee is a newer textbook, the last couple years or so. If you're using an OER, that is no date, etc., you can always under date put not applicable or something of that nature, because not every book maybe will have an exact publication date because the publication standards are a little bit different sometimes with OER text. So keep that in mind. Other instructional materials, I believe you won't be covering. If your learning outcomes change, if your course SLOs change, the expected performance, this is where you'd work with all that information. You can very easily add a new one here, just like your textbook, click add new or add new here, and then that will add it to the list. You can go in and delete using the X. You can change the order of these for the purposes of your outline to make them make sense sequentially, top to bottom, and this is where you do that. So you may be working with objectives or SLOs. If your course outline changes, this is where you're going to include that information. So you're going to simply update it here. And then this is one of those actually that will save when you save your draft at the bottom or you hit submit. So this is not like the textbook or the SLOs above where you have to click add new. So that may be something that you alter, particularly if you've changed your textbook, if you've changed course approaches, content areas. This is where you would indicate all of that information here. You would update your outline basically. Additional information, if you've already approved it for distance learning, I think most of our classes, unless they're brand new after COVID, most of these were done. I know because I reviewed along with the DE committee somewhere around close to 200 classes that we had to update during that crazy COVID push with online learning. So that's the main information. If the dean has anything here, they can add the comments here, etc. DE addendum, again, you probably don't have to change this. If it's a brand new DE class, you will need to do the DE addendum, and that's available here on the site as well. And then the one main area that I'm finding I have to do right now, because it's brand new to the curriculum outline, is the information specific to DEI efforts. So this is where I've been doing a lot of new work specific to each class. And a little trick here, I actually wrote sort of a standard paragraph that covers my entire discipline, because there are some core foundations in all of anthropology. And then what I do is I go through each individual class and say, specific to archaeology, there are these DEI components. Specific to cultural, there are these DEI components. For me, it's fairly easy because literally the entirety of anthropology is about cultural diversity or human biological diversity. So it's fairly easy for me. If you're struggling with this, I know you could reach out to a curriculum committee or others involved with the DEI task force to get some tips on how exactly to maybe make your class shine in terms of your DEI efforts. And that is literally it. Again, I've gone through here a number of the areas that I'm doing in my revisions of curriculum. It could differ a little bit with you, but I think if you see how easy this is to do inside of eLumen, you'll see it's not going to be too onerous a task to work on. Again, when you start your revision, choose either outline view or step view, depending on just how you like to work. The end result is always the same. When you're done with your revision, you're going to, again, as you're working through, hit save as draft. Once you hit submit, it'll ask you then to send it to your supervisor, your dean, and then that information gets conveyed on to the curriculum committee. And as I mentioned earlier, you can always go back to your curriculum workflow, starting at the beginning of the process here, and see exactly what stage all of your course revisions are. You see my here available. It tells you how long I've been working on it, and I can always access those from the inbox. So that will be it today here, looking at eLumen in your class.